What's up, Raptors fans? Welcome to the Warriors Report. I have some news for you today. There was an article that came out a couple of hours ago talking about how the New York Knicks will be looking to add a point guard this offseason. And yes, you guessed it, that man back there, Kyle Lowry's name was linked to the New York Knicks as one of the players they will be looking at in the offseason. Now, this really complicates things because we know the 76ers are still pursuing Kyle Lowry in a sign and trade this offseason. Throw Miami's name in there. They're not doing so hot right now. So we'll see what happens. Now throw New York Knicks as another team that will be looking at Kyle Lowry. So for today's video, I will talk about why this may be a good or bad thing for the Raptors, depending on how you view it. And if you are to sign and trade Kyle Lowry to the New York Knicks, so what are some of the players we could get back in a trade? So before I get into the details of all of that, I need you to do me a little favor. Give this video a thumbs up. When you do that, it helps reach more Raptors fans and basketball fans across YouTube. And if you could hit that subscribe button as well, you get a lot of Raptors content on here, including latest news, latest rumors, in-depth analysis as well. With that being said, let's get right into it. Now, this is going to be really funny because the Raptors, when they were trying to tank those years ago, 2013 I believe was when they were trying to tank, they actually tried to trade Kyle Lowry to the New York Knicks. We know why it didn't work out, and it's funny because this will be our first time missing the playoffs since then, and now the Knicks are looking at Kyle Lowry again. So this will be a really bad thing for the Raptors. Now let's talk about why that may be a bad thing. Looking at that cap space, New York Knicks heading into this offseason will have more cap space than any other team. This means the Raptors might not even get to a sign and trade. The New York Knicks might just outright sign Kyle Lowry because they have so much money they can throw at free agents. Now that will leave definitely the Raptors in a real mess because we don't get anything back. We lose Kyle Lowry for pretty much, we lose him for nothing. And the New York Knicks, well, let's be honest, who wants to see Kyle Lowry on the New York Knicks? So that's definitely going to be a bummer. But let's look at some of the positives. Let's look at why this may be a good thing for the Raptors. Now, we know the free agency isn't all that hot. The New York Knicks might not get some key free agents. They've been linked to guys like Lonzo Ball as well. Maybe the New York Pelicans re-signed Lonzo Ball and they're left with no option but Kyle Lowry, and maybe the Raptors say, you know what, no, we're going to re-sign Kyle Lowry. We're not going to let him go for nothing, so maybe we get him in a sign and trade. Now, I can't throw any trades up just because the ESPN trade machine does this funny thing where it's still showing this season's salary cap. So it's still showing Kyle Lowry's big $30 million contract. Now, this becomes a little bit challenging because looking at the salary cap situation for the New York Knicks, they don't have that many players making more than $4 or $5 million except for RJ Barrett. And being realistic, they're not going to give up RJ Barrett in a sign and trade for Kyle Lowry. So having a look at some of those teams, let's say Kyle Lowry goes for $20 million a couple years. We sign and trade him to the New York Knicks. Some names I would really like back. Now, obviously, right off the bat, you think of Iman quickly. I don't think the Raptors could get him as much as we want him. He's just so valuable to the Knicks. Another name I'm going to hear a lot of people say is RJ Barrett, but that's off the books as well. We know he's a key part of the New Yorks, and there's no way we're getting him. And as I've mentioned, the New York Knicks or just any other team that's signing and trading for Lowry, we're not going to be getting that many assets back. It's not going to be like the NBA trade deadline, so we're not going to be getting a lot back. We're still looking to get a decent amount of assets back, and we'll see how much Masai Ujiri or Bobby Webster can actually extract from other teams. We know they're great at doing that, but just some of the names I would like. Personally, just thinking off the bat, we have to talk about Mitchell Robinson. He fulfills the center position. I know we have Cam Birch and Freddie Gillespie who can play those positions, but that's definitely a position we can strengthen. Mitchell Robinson is a good young player we can add to our core. He's got good height, and obviously he needs to add a little bit more weight, but he can block shots. He can get a decent amount of rebounds. He's not a great rebounder, but for the Raptors, they can use any sort of talent. Good young players, add to our assets, add to our core, and he definitely developed nicely in the Raptors system. Now, obviously, it becomes a little bit challenging. As I've mentioned, the Knicks only have about 4 or 5 players that are making more than a couple, $3, $4, $5, $6 million. So we would likely have to include other names like Kevin Knox as well. I believe he's making $4 or $5 million. Now, Kevin Knox has not had a few good seasons with the Knicks. We know he was being brought up as a great player, but he has not lived up to those expectations. But he's still really young. I believe he's still under 22 years old. He plays a small forward position, so we can use him off the bench. We can develop him in our system. So we'll see how that would definitely be one of those names we can include. Another name I'm thinking about is not the sexiest name, Obi Toppin. He was drafted in this previous year's draft. Now, he's 23 years old. Obviously, he's not as young as most rookies, but he plays the power forward position, which kind of complicates things because now we already have Chris Boucher, Pascal Siakam playing the power forward. Freddie Gillespie can play that power forward position as well, and Khem Birch. So we'll see how that goes, but he would definitely be an interesting player we can add. Now, his stats don't really jump out at you. When you look at his stats, they're decent. They're nothing special, but that's also because he's only taking about 3.5 shots a game. So he definitely could be something nice with the Raptors. Sometimes you just have to get the best pieces available rather than trying to fulfill where positional needs. So I think he'll be a nice player. He was a great scorer in college basketball. So that's another player I think of, and I'm going to butcher his name, so I apologize in advance, but Frank Ntilikina would be another nice player we could add. Now, we know he's had his ups and downs. He was this highly touted draft pick coming out, and he has not lived up to expectations as well. Him and Kevin Knox. So he would be another interesting player. He's got good height for a point guard. He plays the point guard. He's still fairly young. Again, I think he's under 22, 21 years old. He's still a really young player. We can get him in a trade as well. So those are 4 names personally I would like back. Now, as I've mentioned, we may have to include a third. For sign and trades, you cannot include a third team. That's why it becomes that much more challenging to do a sign and trade with the Knicks, because they don't have very many players making more than $4 or $5 million. So we may actually have to include 3 players back to get that. So it's going to really complicate situations. But on the positive, when you look at it, it gives us more leverage as a Raptors team, because we know the 76ers will be pursuing Kyle Lowry. Maybe the Miami Heat now add Knicks to that, and then we can try and gauge out whichever teams gives us the best option, which gives us more option. And we might get one of those teams to kind of give up more assets than most teams would, just because we have more competition for who wants Kyle Lowry. So that'll be great for us Raptors fans looking at it in that situation. But before I end the video off, I do want to hear your thoughts, guys. So let me know in that comment section below of what you think the Raptors could get back for Kyle Lowry in a trade to New York. Who would you like to get back in a trade? Let me know in that comment section below. And if you're still watching, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.